But it's not Joe Biden paying the price. Vladimir Putin is not either. Russia's energy revenue is higher now than before the war in Ukraine began. This is a supply problem that Joe Biden created, one that Russia is now profiting from. There is no cost, no amount of death, destruction, and suffering that'll get in the way of permanent Washington fulfilling their agenda. Now remember former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright? She said that 500,000 dead Iraqi children were worth the Clinton administration's sanctions.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it. It is a moral question, but the moral question is even a larger one. Don't we owe to the American people and to the American military and to the other countries in the region that this man not be a threat?
Now, despite their lectures and their crocodile tears, it's never been about morality. It's not about the people of Ukraine or protecting democracy. This is about regime change in Russia and exploiting this war to strengthen NATO and feed the military-industrial complex. Now, to Joe Biden, it's even about bringing about, quote, a new world order. We've got to lead it, he says. And he's trying to do just that, even if it means bringing us to the brink of nuclear catastrophe. Now, Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis is a combat veteran and author, and he joins us now. Danny, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Tulsi.
Talk to me about sanctions. You know, this is a word that politicians often throw out. It's their knee-jerk reaction to anything. We got to go punish them with sanctions. But who actually pays the price?
Yeah, you know, we are absolutely addicted to sanctions. I mean, anyone talks about anything internationally, sanctions is the first thing that comes up before they even think about the ramifications or even the possibility that it can accomplish anything. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that we make, is that we don't understand that whether that tool can accomplish something or is it just something we throw out there. Now, in this particular case, I think it's really important to point out that if the president was asking us to potentially sacrifice something that could actually make a difference, that could potentially turn the tide of the war, that might be one thing. Potentially the cost would be worth it. But Tulsi, there is no chance, no military path that Ukraine can win this war. There simply isn't. We have to be honest about that. And so that you keep these sanctions on there and they hurt us more than they hurt Putin. I mean, you hit it right on the head there. Because the sanctions, they have limited how much oil they have sold the Russians, and it has accelerated the amount of money that they've made. So it's not working on them, but as you pointed out there, all those problems about Europe, it's about to hit even worse, and it could come back on our country as well. And this winter could be a very decisive case in this whole war if the Western people across the Western world turn against us, because they're saying, hey, we don't recognize an actual threat of any kind of invasion from Russia, but we sure do recognize the cost that we're paying.
You're exactly right, Danny, and it's not a question of if that'll happen. It's something that we're already seeing happening, where different countries in the world, different people are experiencing the effects of this administration's policies and sanctions and are turning towards us in a more antagonistic fashion than they would otherwise. Thank you so much, Danny. I appreciate your expertise always. It's great to have you here on the show.
Thanks for having me, Tulsi.
And when the United States completed the withdrawal of our armed forces from Afghanistan 1 year ago this month, it marked the end of the longest war in American history. A small special operations teams first deployed to Afghanistan in the days after 9/11 to disrupt and destroy al-Qaeda's organization. They were extremely effective in accomplishing that mission. But soon after, our political and military leaders embarked on the fool's errand of nation building and trying to build a mini America in Afghanistan. There was no clear, achievable, and feasible strategy to reach that objective. Nonetheless, 4 consecutive presidents from both political parties, leaders at the Pentagon, leaders in Congress, continued to wage this war even though they knew it was failing.
And the lesson that I've learned over the years is that you have to stay engaged in these situations. Nobody likes it. It's long. It's tedious. But right now we have, so I would say we must be engaged in this.
Is that what you will tell the parents of those 2 soldiers who were just killed in Afghanistan? Well, we just have to be engaged. As a soldier, I will tell you that answer is unacceptable. We have to bring our troops home from Afghanistan. We are in a place in Afghanistan where we have lost so many lives. We've spent so much money that's coming out of every one of our pockets, money that should be going into communities here at home, meeting the needs of the people here at home. We are no better off in Afghanistan today than we were when this war began. Now, withdrawal from Afghanistan needed to happen. It just should have happened almost 20 years ago. Like so many of you, I was horrified as I watched this disastrous withdrawal unfold on television last year. How could it be that after 20 years of war, this administration was so completely ill-prepared to leave? Now, 1 year has passed and there's been no apology, there's been no accountability at any level in this administration, especially to the families of the 13 service members who were killed at Abbey Gate. But as we remember the withdrawal 1 year on, one thing remains true. The failures of our leaders will never take away the great honor and selflessness shown by those who sacrificed on the battlefield. The thousands of Americans who fought in Afghanistan, they fought for each other and they fought for our country. Now, Jack Carr is the author of The Terminalist, now a hit show on Amazon Prime. He's also a former Navy SEAL veteran who served in Afghanistan. Jack, it's so good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.